Welcome in, along with Eric Eager. I'm Steve Palazzolo. Today discussing the best teams in the nation, looking at the college football playoff, and it's all brought to you by Akridge, the official smoked sausage of the college football playoff. All right, Eric, we're here every week breaking down the best teams in the country. Of course, everybody likes to wait until Tuesday night for the reveal who are the top 4 teams in the country according to the College Football Playoff Committee, but we're here to tell you who the best teams are right now. How do we do it again? Explain to everybody at home, how do we come up with our numbers?
Yeah, our analysts grade every player on every play, every game, and guys like me go through and try to take those grades and put them into context against the teams that each of the teams play and sort of how that matters in terms of predicting future outcomes, but also trying to explain the past. And so there are going to be times when a team like LSU against Auburn early in the season wins on the scoreboard but loses via our grades. Hopefully that came through this last week with LSU losing handily to Alabama, and other times the grades say exactly what you saw on the football field. So hopefully, we can provide some context here.
Yeah, and last week we were here saying, look, LSU is not making our top 4, and they're probably going to get crushed by Alabama, and then they did, and now they've moved down. Where are they? Number 9 now in our rankings. So let's get into it. So sitting at top, we have Alabama number 1, and we have Clemson number 2. But we were talking off camera a little bit about how Alabama's been way up there ahead of everyone, but now is Clemson's closing the gap just a little bit. How big of a difference has Trevor Lawrence made? Like, what's happening at the top between Bama and Clemson right now?
Yeah, he's made a huge difference, right? So Alabama for a long time was, in our rating system, more different than the number 2 team than the number 2 team was from the number 6 team, right? And I think that gap has shrunk a little bit. They're still substantially ahead of Clemson, but Clemson's done a really good job the last few weeks blowing out teams they should, like Wake Forest, like Louisville, but at the same time also, taking on an NC State team that we liked. We made our pick of the week one week, and
dominated that game.
Absolutely dismantling them, right? So that's exactly what you have to do to go up a rating system like this. So they're, they're almost as far ahead of Georgia right now as Alabama's ahead of them. So they're a clear number 2 here. And then, of course, the shakeup between 3 and 4, it's pretty interesting going into this week 11.
Yeah, so last week we had Notre Dame at number 3, Georgia at number 4. But again, we're looking at, based off everything we've seen on the field and how well teams have played, how are we projecting this going forward? Based off last week, Georgia now flips, takes over the number 3 spot. They beat Kentucky, an impressive win. Yep. They beat Kentucky and they go to number 3, while Notre Dame struggled through a bit of a Northwestern win. They pulled away at the end. Good job by Notre Dame. Championship, finish in the 4th quarter, as our friend Jack Collinsworth would say. Big Notre Dame homer. But Georgia number 3 now and Notre Dame number 4. We flipped them. What happened this week?
Yeah, and the weird thing is, again, when you rank teams, right, oftentimes their rating, which is the numerical value we'll give them, will both go up, right? But in this case, Notre Dame's rating went up slower than Georgia's rating went up, and that makes sense, right? Georgia had a very good game against a ranked Kentucky team, a highly rated Kentucky team. Notre Dame, as you said, struggled with Northwestern, which we would consider lower than we would Kentucky. So that's why you see that little flip there. Both teams still look good in our rating system.
I'm looking at the numbers. I mean, they're really close.
Yeah,
it's
they're
really
about
close.
Three units apart in 1,000 units. So it's not a ton there. And what, from the perspective of the college football playoff, what's big here is their distance from Michigan and Oklahoma is pretty big as well.
So there we go. Michigan's now at number 5, Oklahoma at number 6. We had Oklahoma at 5 last week, so they drop a little bit. Michigan jumps up 3 or 4 spots now with their dominant win against Penn State. They're still sitting behind Notre Dame, who they lost to in week 1, and I think that makes a bit of sense. But Michigan's defense, the way they're playing right now, I know a lot of people are going to have them in the top 4, probably above Georgia based off of their resume. But right now sitting at number 5, and their defense is a huge part of it.
Yeah, Michigan's defense in the Big Ten, they're first in passing and rushing allowed on early downs in terms of success rate. When you put the other team in long yardage situations on 2/3 of your drives, you're just simply going to be successful defensively, and they've been that way against the teams that they faced the last few weeks, whether it be Penn State, whether it be Wisconsin, Michigan State on the road. Those teams have had really no shot against them, and since we liked Penn State, they had performed decently, especially against a team like Ohio State. They shoot up our rankings, Michigan, by virtue of a win. Oklahoma struggled early on against Texas Tech, turning the ball over, falling behind, and then actually after they gained control of that game, they gave a little bit of it back late to a backup quarterback for Texas Tech. So that's kind of why we have them a little lower than we had them a week ago in terms of these ratings.
And I know a big part of these rankings come from the pass game. offensively and then stopping the pass. And when you look at Michigan, they might not have the best pass game in the world, but they're stopping the pass at an incredible rate. And then Oklahoma's the opposite. They've got Kyler Murray, our highest graded quarterback this year, but they can't stop anybody consistently as far as their pass defense goes, and that's why they dropped to 6.
You don't want to be in a position, I think, in football where, and we saw some games like this in the NFL too, you don't want to be in a position where if you have to punt or you have to kick a field goal, the game's over for you, right? And
you can't lose a possession, right?
Yeah, it feels like Oklahoma's in that spot. One thing that's interesting about Oklahoma is they had 300 yards rushing from Trey Sermon and Kyler Murray against Texas Tech, and only like 80 to 90 of those yards were after contact, so they were just getting these gaping holes the other day. So there is a lot to like about Oklahoma offensively, but as you said, they cannot give up possessions.
All right, 2 interesting other teams we have to talk about. The UCF debate. They haven't lost a game in 2 years. Everybody wants to say, all right, UCF, they're making a move. They need to be a part of this mix. Last year, I think we had them at, 9th or 10th by the end of the year, but right now sitting at 6. So they've started to impress the model a little bit with their wins.
Yeah, I think the thing with UCF that they're going to benefit from here is the fact that the teams in
they're 7th. I'm sorry.
In that area have not impressed. Ohio State lost to Purdue the other week, and then against the Nebraska team that took 6 weeks to win their first game, they only win basically a 1-possession game. So, and then LSU again has all the warts that we've been talking about. Auburn, same thing. Fresno might be a team that in the next couple weeks could get into the top 10 and challenge there. But really, I think for UCF, it's really just the lack of teams in that region that are super impressive. So we're going to give UCF that spot by default, even though they did struggle with the Temple team last Thursday night.
So we're heading towards Michigan and Ohio State in a few weeks. Ohio State, despite getting destroyed by Purdue a few weeks ago, they have a chance to get back to the college football playoff, because I think if they go in with 1 loss and they do beat Michigan, it helps their resume quite a bit. But what about their discrepancy in the pass games? They've got one of the best pass games in the nation, the best in the Big Ten, but their pass defense has really struggled. Is that going to come back to bite them?
Yeah, they're in the bottom half of the Big Ten in terms of those same metrics I was talking about with Michigan. Other teams generating success on early downs against them, and you saw it with Nebraska. Adrian Martinez was, he had a 100 passer rating when clean, and again, this is a team that didn't win a game until like their 6th or 7th outing. So I don't know. I think Ohio State. I can't see them beating Michigan here, but you make a great point. If they do, they might be in that conversation because of how impressive Michigan has been over the last 2 months, and then what a win over them would imply.
So there you have it. It's PFF's top 4 teams. Might look a little different than what the playoff committee comes up with, but we're going by the hard numbers. It's all brought to you by Eckridge. Don't forget to pick up Eckridge smoked sausage at your local grocery store for this weekend's tailgate or home gate party. Make sure to visit EckridgeFootball.com for great game day recipes and to enter their season-long $1 Million Challenge.